everybody, and welcome to today's DevOps Voices. Today, we are joined by Sari Alander, a passionate change leader and consultant, and based in Helsinki. Welcome, Sari.
Thank you very much. It's so happy to be here and share my thoughts about DASA and DevOps.
Likewise, Sari. We have a very interesting session today because we're going to talk about, the world. And the world of product and service development is rapidly changing. And digitization and automation, they're all, important part of life. And very soon, the world as we know it will not be there anymore. So we'll see robots, artificial intelligence, are coming up, and they will eventually dramatically change organizations and, of course, also our jobs. And Sari's passion is to help the world cope with these changes and challenges, and which are already here, but also will be more apparent in the near future. She believes there is no single approach to solving these issues, but she does believe in what Charles Darwin said. It's not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that is adaptable to change and who works cooperatively against common threats. So today we're going to talk about courage, and we will uncover why Sari considers courage as a very important factor to create organizational change in these turbulent times. And we also hope we have some time to discuss and elaborate on, well, the Scandinavian business culture. So I think it's quite an introduction. Sari, again, thanks for joining, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about this from you. So, Sari, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your current work as an agile lead at Visma Solutions?
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. And I think audience is kind of, they have right to know that I have been now working just 1 week for Visma Solutions. So I'm really, really excited and learning about the company, about the products, people. But after 1 week, I'm really, really enthusiastic about ongoing to work with them as well. So it's probably going to be a really great journey to work with them and help them to grow and kind of as well agile and lean and DevOps perspectives. So really, really looking for that.
Cool.
My role is going to be really much, sorry, Dimitri. My role is, yeah, it's really much about coaching, and I also love that part really much. So that's my core and my happiness in the life as well, so that I can help other people to be more successful what they do.
Absolutely. Can you tell the audience as well, when you say became acquainted with DevOps? I mean, you're an agilist. For a long time, and
yes.
the first time that you had that aha moment with DevOps?
Well, I really thought about it. I actually would have answered first that about 5 years ago, I probably get know with the term DevOps in the first time. And it was more about tools rather than anything else. But then when I started to think about it more and more, then I actually recognized that already in 1990s, I was part of the group who was actually designing how to do the whole product effectively.
Right.
And then I understand that, oh God, we already have their ideas of DevOps, that this is how we should do the things. Of course, there was no agile in that time, not at least in that company. But the idea of that every part are working together, it was very strongly there. And I have really big belief since then that that's the only way of doing things. So big history. But then I actually get to know Dasa 3 years ago, or a little bit more, maybe a little bit more than 3 years ago. And then I get really excited about the fact that Dasa has more than just the tools. We have so much more emphasis on the people and the culture. And in my experience, those are much more important than the tools. Of course, you need the tools, but people and culture makes the biggest difference.
Fantastic. So, and that's also a very interesting link about, I mean, if people and culture. I mean, because courage, I mean, and that is our core topic for today as well. I mean, that is culture, that is people. So before we dive a little bit deeper, can you explain what you would consider courage? Or what does courage entail to you, Sari?
Yeah, for me, courage is there's okay. There's two angles I would put it.
Mm,
One is that you have courage to step up and make things better,
mm-hmm,
even kind of very challenging situations.
mm-hmm,
And then there is courage to give up when there's no more good reasons to fight, let's put it this way. So, and try to find another solution. So there's kind of each other's kind of different angles of the courage.
yes,
And I think that's how I see it. It's very important when you make the agile of DevOps journey. You need the
yeah,
both
yeah,
flavors,
mm-hmm,
and then you need also people who find this courage to act.
right. And let's say if you talk about experimentation and concepts like fail fast, where would you position that on your, yeah, on your two skills?
Yeah. Well, the fail fast, I think that's the giving up side in a way, and
Yeah,
experimentation is the other side. That
yes,
you find the courage to experiment. Yeah.
right.
And fail fast, it's like, okay, you understand this is not going to work. Let's do
Mm,
something else.
yes. And I mean, you wrote a lot about also in blogs and online about courage, and then you've supported many organizations also going through change and individuals as a coach. So what are some of the tips and tricks for professionals who are seeking to address this, yeah, this topic of courage? What can they do? Where should they start?
Well, at least in my experience, some people have courage. They are naturally born more courage
Mhm.
than the others.
Yeah,
But organization can support everybody's to be a more courage or finding more courage by creating the culture which is safe
yeah,
and bringing the trust so that everybody feels that it's okay
yeah,
to use that courage in whatever situation, and
mhm,
no one is going to be blamed or put it down for experimenting or failing fast. And I
mhm,
think that that is the most important
yeah,
trick. And it's not actually trick because it's so hard.
yeah,
Yeah, it can be so hard. Yeah.
yeah. So I had a discussion this morning with one of our a corporate enterprise and also in their journey. And there were kind of two approaches. One of them is creating a safe culture bottom up. I mean, making people aware what it is. And there are other forces which I think are more common to start at the top, because you can talk, you can be aware, but if management or leadership does not support it, then it's all, yeah, well, can be pretty useless. I mean, where would you start? I mean, because given the fact that having yeah, working from a trust level in a psychologically safe environment, where would you typically start?
If I can decide, always I can't. It's quite common actually start with the single teams. That's
Yeah,
kind of a common approach. But if I can kind of say that, okay, let's start from the top and from bottom and from top. So that would be the ideal situation, that
yeah,
there's the same message coming through from both sides.
yeah,
And the worst case is that there is teams who want to be agile and doing lean thinking. And then there's a management who actually wants to do the same, but they are not capable of showing it. So they continue command and control way of working,
yeah.
even though they want to change, but they don't know how. And well, that's probably the most difficult places to coach. So get them actually change their way of working.
Yeah. And as an agile coach, do you see, yeah, what is the predominant thing which you will be looking after? Is it, I mean, what are the kind of skills or behavior that you would be encouraging in the organizations? I mean, one of the most important. Can you share your light on that?
Yeah, I think the most important is that the management act, what's the English word? That continues the same way. So if they have decided that we will have autonomous, self-directed teams,
Yeah.
they actually let them do their work and don't go micromanaging the teamwork. And so how they put it in action, that's very important. And that's what I, for example, as a coach, when I'm coaching the management, I
Mhm.
coach that. I coach that you have to practically do things. And I have found that very working way of doing. And I
Yeah.
have also encouraging teams to actually work with the management, that when they do, because everybody, we do the mistakes, we forget and we fall back in the old habits so
Mhm.
so easily.
Yeah.
So I encourage teams to actually remind that, okay, by the way, we have agreed that we don't do this anymore, but we do it a different way.
Mhm.
So that's how also the trust is coming in play very heavily.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, what kind of interventions would you pull the team together? Would you rather do it on an individual level? I mean, to discuss these things, or does it make most sense to share the same perspective and get the same awareness on the team level immediately?
I prefer to have a same perspective, same ideas in the team level immediately. And sometimes it's very hard. And then we have to, of course, think about if people really can't tolerate it, that it has to be done in the same, really in individual level. But I never recommended it because
Yeah.
it's already a step back if you can't talk about the difficult topics in the team. So you already starting from somewhere behind. And
Absolutely.
it's very rarely, actually.
Yeah.
I have very few experiences on that, at least in Finland.
Interesting. And Sari, can you reflect on what is your perspective on DevOps coaching? If you would compare that to, it's an agile coaching, where would you see the key differences there?
Well, I think the key difference is that when you do the agile coaching, you have a certain type of teams. I mean, they build the software in many cases. And when you add the operation part, so that you start to look at the whole chain of actually making the product totally, I would say, operation people are quite often different, like we know. So in many cases, also the coaching has to be different in that sense, that in development, it requires, I think we coach many times, at least again in Finland, that how they speak up and tell their opinion, and it's kind of this kind of encouraging people to be more proactive in a way, and somehow that. But then, but they don't have fences, or they don't be defending. When the operation side has, they could have years of experience of defending. And it's very hard to get rid of that idea that they have to defend. That's their role.
But can we get rid of it, or does it just take a long time? Because I mean,
yes, they can, and it is because I think they can. Sometimes they can get rid of it very fast, even because they start to get the really good view on the benefits, what we can gain on this. And sometimes it takes much more time. And it's not, when I said fast, 3 months is nothing. 6 months, something happening. Year, yes, possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an interesting one, because you also mentioned speaking up. I wrote it down, having opinion, or being proactive. And there is also a link to maybe the Scandinavians. I mean, I don't want to generalize, but in general, I mean, I think they are very outspoken. And so would you believe, if that is true, I mean, it's a generalization, but would that make your life in general easier, or would you still face, for instance, in the development teams, you know, that you have to encourage them to speak up? Will it be easier to coach for these kinds of principles in Scandinavia than in other places in the world?
Well, I have been actually also coaching for Indians and Chinese.
Yes, interesting.
I find them extremely challenging for me. So and I guess I'm born in Finland. I have been all my life living in Finland and working with I have been working actually global companies all my life. So I have been working with very different kind of people, but lots of Finns.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's easy, or easier than any other culture, because it's familiar for me.
Yes.
For you, it might be harder when you start, of course.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm also very aware about, I mean, working with different cultures and nationalities, about my own limitations and what I consider normal. So, and that is a very interesting one. So, but can I ask you, I mean, what makes it difficult to, an example, I mean, coaching, for instance, in with Indian teams, or Chinese teams in this case. I mean, an example. What makes it challenging? I mean, difficult. Coaching has to be difficult because it's an act. It's an art in itself to make people change and see them things. But I mean, what are the kind of the challenges that you face?
I think that the biggest difference is that if you think about this kind of personal trust level. I think in Finns and generally in Scandinavia, people trust to each other. If there's no reason to trust, they trust to each other. And it's like the basic level of trust is quite high.
Yes.
But if you work with people from India, my experience at that their personal level of trust is actually quite low.
That's possible.
So the building, really the basis that how we work, you can trust me as a coach. It takes usually much more time and much more work. And then the other thing is, I think, is that again in Finland, we are very straightforward, most of the people.
Very direct. Very
Direct.
It's
And
not,
some people, it's like it's not polite, but for Finns, it's this kind of nonsense talk. They get very bored.
I know. Yes.
Yeah. But then some other cultures, they actually find it rude or insulting even. So how to balance with your Finnish personality and the knowing that, okay, I have to do this a little bit differently.
It's a very interesting observation, because I mean, if you look at our competence model and courage, I mean, and it's one of the 12 domains, and there's also a thing called proactivity. And but proactivity in different settings can mean different things. We have a generic approach which works, but there is another dimension as well, proactivity in India, or without generalizing, but it can be interpreted in a different way. And also in Indasa, we're going to, let's say, planning to address those cultural interpretations as well, and to really create international teams, have them work together in a kind of high-performing mode. But it's a very interesting analysis and observations as well. So would you dare to, I mean, share a little bit about, I mean, you already touched upon it, about specifics in Scandinavian culture, Finnish culture? I mean, being direct, I know that's one, but are there more specifics that are lesser known, perhaps?
Yeah. I know that the rest of the world sees Scandinavian countries as the one, but if you're living here, we are different. But I think what is very common is this equalization. I mean, we are the most equal countries in the world. So there's very little thinking that some people are more valuable than the others. So we really are born with the idea that everybody is equal. And then this kind of informality, that's also, I think, common to everywhere. It's easy for us, and we don't like hierarchies. And then there's this kind of functionality. If you look at the design from Finland or Sweden or Norway, there's a certain really functionality. We like to keep things functional and not too much. I don't know what's the right wording, not too many decorations, I would say. And we like that too in the working spaces and everything, I would say. And then there's, I think, the freedom.
Yeah. So go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, freedom is one of those as well. People actually we have a very good social security system, so people are, when they work, they usually have a freedom to do what they like.
So, Sari, about, let's say, freedom, that's a very important thing. So if you could position it on the, let's say, six DASA principles, I mean, where would you, where would you position it? Where can we find it?
Yeah. I would actually think that it's everywhere, but if I have to select, I would
Mm-hmm.
probably take the autonomous teams first,
Yeah,
because I think that's really about the freedom. You can select who you work with, how you work with, and how you do your everyday life, and that's freedom in best form, in my idea.
yeah,
And then the other one, continuous improvement. I think
yeah,
again, you have to find the freedom or free will to do that, so that you continuously improve your work, and you recognize that, okay, you have to improve. You're not happy all whatever you kind of succeed by, kind of momently you're happy, but then you start to look for new things again. So
yes.
those two I would pick.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, Sari, it was a pleasure having you here today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dimitri. This was fun.
Yes, I will talk to you soon, and good luck in your new role, and talk to you soon again. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.